Good evening. I'm Gary Grotto, the executive editor of the Arizona Capital Times, and welcome to Meet the Candidates. Tonight, it's the last in a series of Meet the Candidates events, and we anticipate tonight's conversation is going to be as interesting and enlightening as the previous 4 nights, and you'll get to know your candidates better. At this point, I want to thank the Arizona Clean Elections Commission for sponsoring these events. The Clean Elections Commission administers the Citizens Clean Elections Act, which voters passed in 1998. The act seeks to restore citizen participation and confidence in the political system, improve the integrity of Arizona state government, and promote freedom of speech under the Arizona and U.S. constitutions. Now, to tell us more about that is Gina Roberts. Welcome, Gina. Gina's the voter education manager for the Citizen Clean Elections Commission.
Hi, Gary. Hello, voters. Thank you so much for that. And thank you to the Arizona Capital Times for bringing us the Meet the Candidate series this week. As Gary mentioned, it's been very energetic and exciting and hopefully informative to all of the voters in the legislative districts across the state. We are well underway when it comes to early voting. So if after tonight you are looking for additional information for the candidates, Clean Elections, along with the Arizona Capital Times, we hosted a series of debates. So you're welcome to take a look at those debates where you can possibly learn more about the candidates. We also sent out a voter education guide to every household with a registered voter. So hopefully you have that in your mailbox. We have a ton more of information available on our website, which is azcleanelections.gov, and we encourage you to visit that website for all of your voting needs. As Gary mentioned, we are the Citizens Clean Elections Commission. We are a nonpartisan government organization, so everything that we provide to voters, it is nonpartisan and it is official, accurate election information. So thank you for spending your evening with us, and I hope you enjoy meeting the candidates.
All righty. Thank you, Gina. Now, to explain the format for tonight, first of all, this is not a debate, so there won't be any rebuttal or, final summary or anything like that. The candidates are here to tell you about their campaigns and try to persuade you to vote for them. And it's an opportunity for you, the voter, to send in your questions. And you can do that by putting them in the comment section. We'll try to get as many of them as we can tonight. And we'll be bringing the candidates out in groups. And after every group of candidates, we'll take a short break before we return with a new group. And finally, if you subscribe and we ask that you subscribe and like the Morning Scoop channel, and we'd be very grateful for that. So tonight we're going to present legislative districts 25 through 30. In the meantime, we're going to take a very short break and we'll be back with the candidates. Thank you. Welcome back, and we're here with Flavio Bravo, and we were supposed to also have Cesar Aguilar, a Democrat running for the House, joining us, but he cannot make it tonight. So Flavio, it's just me and you. So you're a Democrat running for the House. Tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Sure. Thank you, Gary. And good evening, and thank you to the Arizona Capital Times and the Clean Elections Commission for hosting this opportunity. I'm running for the Arizona State Legislature because I believe we need leaders who understand how public policies ranging from education, housing, healthcare, and the economy each intersect with one another. I was born and raised in the district. I'm a proud fifth-generation Arizonan. I'm also a Democratic Precinct Committee person in Granada, where my wife and I became first-time home buyers. And I recognize how difficult it is today for renters with record high interest rates and the barriers that come with applying for a mortgage during our housing shortage. First generation college graduate, I understand the value of an education, and I'm committed to prioritizing K through 12 education. And after receiving my master's degree, I went on and worked for Congressman Grijalva before returning home to work on local issues. Having spoken to many neighbors throughout the campaign, I know many have lost loved ones and have done everything to keep their families safe. And because of this, I will work to expand access to healthcare and preventative health resources. And I look forward to sharing more with you all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Flavio. So, as a Democrat, what can you do and what can the Democrats do to fight back against the regulation of abortion, considering the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling a few weeks ago?
Sure. It's a devastating decision. First off, I'd say that it was the same evening that we had our district debate, and that was the first question on the top of people's minds. I know, and as a legislator, as a candidate for the legislature, I see it as no legislator should want one of their constituents to have to leave their state because they don't feel safe, right? I see it as an issue of safety. That's already happened in the state of Texas, and to see that happen in Arizona would be awful. And so we need all legislators, not just Democratic legislators, but we need all legislators to understand that access to abortion is a healthcare issue. And so we cannot say that we support, in many ways, our state has been recognized for being a leader in health when it comes to, we have Banner Health, we have the Mayo Clinic, but we also have constituents that we have to serve and make sure that their safety is upheld at the end of the day. So it's predicted that that'll be probably the first thing that comes up this upcoming legislative session. And personally, my campaign, I'm the only candidate in this House race that was endorsed by Planned Parenthood. And it's because I understand it as an issue of safety.
Okay. So as a Democrat, the Democrats haven't had the majority for a long time in Arizona. With the slim margins, sometimes the Republicans come and try and either pick off one or two for a vote or, get the Democrats' help. And so are you able to reach across the aisle and work with Republicans?
I am. And I've done it my entire life. When I was putting up one of my yard signs in my parents' home, the two neighbors that watched me grow up and watched me go to school dances and wash my car, they asked me, they said, Flavio, are you running for office? And I said, yes. And they said, well, we vote red in this house. And I said, well, let's talk about what are the issues most important to you, right, and your family. And I think at the end of the day, we want the same issues. And you mentioned how Republicans try to peel off 2 Democratic votes. Well, we're in the House minority by 2 votes. So if we can reach across the aisle and get one Republican to understand the importance of legislation such as abortion care and to protect the rights of women in our state and pregnant persons, then it actually one legislator would reach a tie. And so that's my commitment. And I know that even when I'm at the doors, we have a lot of households where the registered voter might be a Democratic voter, but then their Republican spouse answers the door. And so I have had conversations throughout the entire campaign that people have said, are you running just to represent the party? And I said, I'm running to represent the community.
What have you heard from your constituents that you weren't, that you didn't know before about what concerns have you heard from your constituents that you hadn't heard before you started running for office, or just something that didn't cross your mind?
I think it's almost as if every single household had spoken to each other. I mean, going from one home to another, I understand that homelessness is an issue in our state, but to see almost everybody has mentioned that at the doors, the concern for people experiencing homelessness. Like I've done this for like 10, 11 years where I've knocked on doors for other candidates. And this cycle, I believe because of COVID and because a lot of people were inside their homes and had the news running 24/7, I think many people actually welcome the conversation for a candidate to knock on their door. And so when they would bring up an issue like, what do we do to support people that are experiencing homelessness and that are support people that are using drugs, where I was surprised was the level of compassion that I heard in the neighbors' voices. It wasn't saying like, well, because of this, we need to have an extreme response. It was with a sense of urgency, but saying literally, what can we do? Everybody knows about Andre House. They know about St. Vincent de Paul. They know about our shelter services, but collectively, people know that even those organizations are under-resourced.
And we got a question from the audience. How do you believe we can best support students who are undocumented or have DACA? And I think they're referring to dreamers, or who are dreamers, I should say.
Sure. That is an issue that our state has the opportunity to really work on. The voters this November, finally, the voters will have an opportunity to say that the same youth that have gone to schools from kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school, that they will have the opportunity to attend our in-state institutions tuition-free, in-state tuition rates. And I share the importance of that because one of my campaign volunteers is actually a DACA recipient. And he received the presidential scholarship from ASU, right? Because he was such an excellent high school student. But when they learned that he wasn't born here, despite having gone through the schools since elementary school, he was stripped away of that scholarship. Now, he's a very good student, so he got into Harvard, and Harvard covered everything. But at the end of the day, we are losing talent when those students cannot stay in our state. And I think there are many ways beyond just in-state tuition that we can support them. I think we can support undocumented youth and their families with driver's licenses, right? Just a basic necessity to get around a state that has limited public transit opportunities. I think we could offer professional work licenses. Most, if not the heavily majority of immigrant families, right, that come to the US are coming here to work. And so the work that they do, they pay taxes and don't get a tax return. And they're, without them, our economy would crumble.
So we got about a minute left. Tell the voters why they should vote for you.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your time. And each of my experiences as an educator, congressional staffer in the nonprofit sector, I believe provide me with the skills to address our district's most pressing needs while working for a more just and livable future for Arizona and generations to come. We are still overcoming the pandemic, and the cost of living has skyrocketed. Our schools, which should be places where students, teachers, and parents are supported, have faced continuous uncertainty. With a background in economic and immigration policy, I'm committed to supporting small businesses as well as ensuring dignity in all work. I invite you to visit my website, flaviobravo.com, and it would be an honor to earn your vote and to serve you at the state legislature. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Flavio. And we'll be back in about 1 minute with Legislative District 27. See you then. Welcome back, and we're here with Legislative District 27 candidates, Jamie Kelly, a Republican running for Senate, and Jay Griffin, a Republican running for the House. Thanks for joining us, folks. And I always start out these little conversations by just asking you to tell the voters a little bit about yourself and why you're running. Jamie, would you like to to start things off?
Sure. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Jamie Kelly. I'm a candidate for the Arizona State Senate in Legislative District 27. I'm an Arizona native that was actually raised in the 85308 zip code that my husband and I call home. He is a retired law enforcement officer and an Air Force veteran, and so I'm very supportive of our law enforcement and military. I'm also a mom of 3 and a grandma of 6, along with a great service dog. And the decision to run was based on the idea that if I don't do something, my grandkids aren't going to have a country like I had growing up. And I want to be able to give them more opportunities. I think as parents, we want to ensure our children have a brighter future than we did. So the decision for me was that I have to fight because no one else is going to do it. I have to step in and be that fighter for them. In my process of deciding to run, I've seen a lot of different things, and I'm looking forward to our conversation tonight.
Great. So, Jay?
Hi, I'm Jay Griffin. I'm running for the House of Representatives in District 27. The reason I'm running, I'm from the heart of Lincoln Land, Illinois, and so I grew up with that sort of ethic. Abraham Lincoln, I've walked the same trails that he has, and actually, I never really envisioned myself becoming a legislator growing up. But I worked for 12 years in Arizona Department of Health Services, and I did a lot of administrative rural technical assistance. And through that experience, I realized I really have an aptitude for what good law is and how that ends up affecting Arizonans. And so that's a big part of why I want to basically be a constitutional champion and try to make better law for Arizonans, and doing that with their consent, which I don't think has actually occurred with current representatives that we're used to. I'm married. I have 3 kids in Peoria School District, and 2 of my children are by adoption. And so there's got a lot of experiences with a lot of different issues that I'm sure we'll probably cover today. My wife also is from another country, which was formerly communist, atheist. And so I've learned a lot about our American freedoms and really have a lot to treasure of that, and really want to see that sustained beyond this election. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you bet. So, Jay, you mentioned that you have a knack for knowing what good law is. What's good law? So,
good law basically is, first of all, good law is well defined, and it's very specific to addressing what the actual problem is. Now, fundamentally, law has to cohere with the Constitution, and not just what we think the Constitution is, but like literally what the Constitution says. And so, frankly, I've been shocked to see some of the bills that have been passed in this past legislative session that, for example, like the video recording 8 foot, within 8 feet of a police officer, denying, all a police officer has to do is be able to just say, you're interfering, shut that video off or don't record. And then suddenly there's this bubble that ends up taking away our Second Amendment rights to freedom of, being free to capture and publish. So, good law. From my experience, I went through developing administrative rules. I went through 3 cycles where I've had to improve the rules that we had already and live with the consequences of what those improvements that we made in 3 different cycles over those 12 years. And that really that involved a lot of work with stakeholders. And so I haven't seen that kind of work happen with current representatives, and I'd like to implement that basically as as one of the next representatives for LD 27.
Okay, thank you for that. Jamie, same question. What's good law?
So for me, good law is one, it has to be clearly defined and there can't be a lot of vagueness. I think about this often in relation to when we see court orders, for example, with child custody, and the paperwork may say that you are allowed to pick up the kids on Friday, every other Friday, but it doesn't define when that every other Friday begins. So it has to be enforceable by law enforcement. It also has to have clear definitions to clearly explain each piece of it so that there's not that room for vagueness. I think that's where Arizona tends to get in trouble is there's a little bit of, we allow for discretion, but that discretion is oftentimes manipulated to benefit one party or another. All law needs to be constitutional in nature, and it needs to ensure that it upholds the values of our America. And the other part of good law is when you have enforceability, there also has to be clear punishment. So we have to have rules and order in place to maintain a good society.
Okay, thank you. So we just passed a bill that gives empowerment scholar, or makes empowerment scholarship, makes students, every student in the state, eligible for empowerment scholarships, vouchers. Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
I'll jump in on this one. For me, it's a great thing. My grandson has special needs, and during the COVID pandemic, the public school system left him behind. He was not receiving the services that he needed. He was failing in school and really struggling. My daughter was able to find a school that is a charter school. He has excelled amazingly well in that school. He's been receiving the services that he needs. So I understand the value of the empowerment scholarships because it's empowered my grandson to have a better education that meets his needs. For all parents, they should have the right to choose where their kid goes to school, and taxpayer dollars needs to follow the child in a backpack style funding. I understand that education is different for everyone. I'm a product of public school system. I grew up in the Deer Valley Unified School District, and I saw firsthand sometimes where maybe I would have had a better education could have my grandparents afforded to send me to a charter or a private school. So I'm thankful that we have that opportunity now.
Jay?
Yeah, I've got quite a bit of personal experience with that. I think the ESA scholarship is a very good thing because I have a son who basically needed that. That's the only way he could get an education, because after 4 teachers in a public district school and a teacher in charter school and a teacher in private school, so 6 teachers within basically 2 years, starting from kindergarten, basically didn't want to have him in their classroom and try to educate him. And so I basically qualified for, as a parent, I qualified for the ESA scholarship, and also in terms of the special needs of my son, he qualified, and we finally got him into a small, basically like a micro school that he's finally able to actually like school again. So so I'm personally very grateful for it, and I think that the ESA expansion is only going to end up benefiting Arizonans that really desperately need it.
Okay, so in this last legislative session, there were a slew of what were dubbed election integrity bills, and I think out of the 148 that were introduced, 17 were actually enacted and passed and signed by the governor. Do we need to do more to revamp our elections and keep them secure, or are those days over? Jay?
I think the election integrity is as important as the elections. I mean, we're always going to need to have good elections, because if you can't trust the election, then what's going to happen to our society? Now, can we always do more? There's always could be done more. I think legislatively, I don't think most of the answers are there. I think most of the answers are in the administrative side of things. Maricopa County leaders, Board of Supervisors, and County Recorder. I think that's where most of the answers need to be sought from as far as improving election integrity. And we do need more basically grassroots support. There's a huge need for poll workers. Just all Arizonans need to really get invested into this, not just, post about it on Facebook and, complain when things aren't quite the way they like them to be.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Jamie?
Absolutely. There needs to be a lot more done in election integrity. I'm looking forward to the vote of yes on Prop 309 in the general election. Some of the areas that I have concerns about is the ballot adjudication process. So when a ballot comes in, the amount of time that we're taking to process that ballot, I don't feel is adequate enough. To verify that signature, verify that vote. I have a lot of questions in regards to, for example, I received a message the other day, a friend of mine's deceased father had voted in the 2020 election. He's been dead for several years, would not have been around to vote in that election. So I've encouraged her to reach out to the Attorney General's office, ensure that we're investigating that properly. The other part that I have a lot of questions about is the security of the mail-in ballots. I would advocate for additional voter identification on those ballots, whether that comes in the form of a date of birth, a last four of a social security number, a picture of an identification. But we need to have some security to ensure that those signatures are that of the actual voter. I also find it interesting. I've heard for several years about the individual in Yuma who has been ballot harvesting. We knew this was a problem. It took a very long time for this to get addressed. So those are some of the areas. There's some other legislation that I've been working with a few key people on to ensure that we are protecting the vote and moving it forward. And I am really disappointed in the number of people that fundraised on election integrity and did nothing in the last election cycle. So I'm committed to upholding my promises to the voters that we will get legislation to the board, get it voted on, and get it dealt with. And this is where the key part of our leadership in the Senate does matter. We need to ensure that we have somebody who's willing to bring legislation forward, get the votes. If we can't get the votes, let's show that. Let's put it up and let's see who doesn't support election integrity so we can make a difference and have safe and secure elections in Arizona.
Okay. We probably got about 3 minutes left. And so last question is has to do with abortion. So what else needs to be done in Arizona as far as abortion regulation, Jamie?
I'm looking at the abortion law. We're looking at the pre-Roe law that the Attorney General just released their opinion on. For me, I'm pro-life from conception until natural death. Looking at what has happened in the last year since Roe versus Wade happened, I am thankful that we have upheld in the court of law that abortion is not a constitutional right, that life is the constitutional right. I do think that we need some clear definitions on that pre-Roe law, that we are not targeting the mother. We need to love both the mother and the child through this journey that they're on. Our target is on the abortion providers. I am thankful that Planned Parenthood has closed doors providing abortions. They have stated they will no longer be offering abortions in Arizona. Now we need to focus on the abortion pills that are coming in from overseas and other states. We need to focus on healthcare, and we need to support the pregnancy resources centers so that women have the services that they need to have this child and the resources that if they make the decision to give the child up for adoption, that we can support that process and make it a little bit easier, especially for kinship care. So there's a lot of pieces that I think need to happen. The other part of that is ensuring that our foster care system grows and we have the support we need for children in foster care. But again, I am pro-life from conception until natural death.
All right. Thank you, Jamie. Jay, we got 2 minutes.
Okay. So I believe that we all know that there is no actual right to an abortion. And so really the issue is whether a woman wants to cause the death of this growing human inside of her. whether or how she can be helped in accomplishing that. And so I think that those types of questions are not easy to deal with, and they're better off left in the area of people should be at liberty to make those choices, and women should be able to make those choices with the men who made this choice possible, and to experience the consequences of those choices. Personally, I think that's one of the main things that a lot of things in our society is, it isn't so much having the ability or wanting to, but that the consequences of those acts end up being deferred or being imposed on other people who it's unfair to them to have to go through that. And this is a very personal issue for me as well. I'm a father of 6 children who died in miscarriage, and my wife, a couple of those actually, my wife faced very, very serious health complications in that. So I personally cannot fathom why any woman or any mother to be or any father to be would ever want to pursue this kind of course of action when you've just been blessed by the potential of being able to bring your own family into this world. So I wouldn't. So I can definitely sympathize with the trauma that some have experienced, but every person alive today has had the benefit of having a mother and a father. And I believe that that's just a fundamental thing that everyone needs to be able to experience, or at least have the chance at doing. So, but anyway, thank you.
All right. And thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Jay. And we'll be coming back with Legislative District 28. Good luck on the campaign, and maybe we'll see you at the legislature.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Welcome back, and we're here now with Claire Van Steenwyk. He's running for the Senate in Legislative District 28. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you for having me.
So just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and why you're running.
Well, I'm a retired businessman and former political talk show host, actually. Why I'm running? Quite frankly, I've run before. I think possibly you know that if you've looked at my resume at all. I'm really tired of the people that, both the career politicians and the wannabe career politicians. There's a list of things I've put down that I'd like to get fixed. And I've looked at these things over the years, and they've never done anything about any of them. The schools are just as bad now, if not worse than they were when I moved here. The water supply is still not guaranteed. We're still having problems with that. I realize the border is a federal issue, but the state could do a few things about it. Foster care is still a mess. Our mental health care programs in this state are basically non-existent. There's a myriad of other things, but it just amazes me that they'll talk about things, we accomplished this and this and this, and none of this has to do basically with any of the citizens in the communities. It's mostly all for corporate, whether it's the Doctors Association, the Builders Association, the Truckers Association, the Chamber of Commerce, or something else. It's not necessarily for the district these people are in. I look at bills they pass that are fundamentally, quite frankly, unconstitutional on their face. They've been doing this for years. They violate both the Arizona Constitution and the US Constitution. They're warned about it in committee meetings by people like me that go down there to testify. And they say, well, we don't want to do anything that violates the Constitution. And then they vote for them anyway. So, I also believe that people finally, because it's taken a while, and I think really what woke a lot of people up this time was the China virus. That just got a lot of parents upset when they started seeing what their children weren't learning in school versus what they are being told in school. And I've gone to some school board meetings and you watch parents, how angry they are getting, or if they are. And then I met with them privately for them to talk about the things that bother them, and they do. But they say that they can't get their city councils to do anything. They can't get the school boards to do anything. They can't get their representatives to do anything. That's obvious. And so I'm running. People ask me if I would. I've got fundamentally the business ability to know how to run a campaign, and I'm running.
You mentioned career politicians, and you said you're not a career politician. At what point do you stop running for office to keep from becoming a career politician?
I'm not a career politician. I'm an activist citizen. I don't believe even if I was elected, I'd be a politician, because I definitely do not get along with most of the people in the upper echelon of the Republican Party. I don't get along with lobbyists or PAC groups. The person I'm running against, Mr. Carroll, I've just done the research on money that's been not donated directly to him, but benefits him in his campaign. I don't know how they get away with this, but they do. And you've got all kinds of groups giving him money in excess of $70,000 already, and it's not over yet, for a $23,000 job. I ran companies. My God, if someone was going to give me $70,000 for 23, I'd just take the 70 and retire for a few years. This is nuts. This is why people, what you call just citizens, look at this and think, why would I bother running? You can't beat these people because they get their money. Well, let's see. Here's a little list of it. Greater Phoenix Chamber, $5,200. Then Greater Phoenix gave them another $6,900. Then the Arizona Trucking Association gave them $23,000. We build Arizona, $4,000, and then $9,500. And then they gave them reasonable leadership, responsible leadership, $10,000. Responsible leadership again, $12,000. Responsible leadership again, $12,000. This is like monopoly money to them. What are they buying? My opponent said at a meeting, yes, I take PAC money, but it doesn't influence me. Well, it sure in the hell is trying to influence voters, especially voters that you and I both know, for the most part, are uninformed about most things. They a lot of times will just vote for a recognizable name, or quite frankly, for someone they like. If you're likable enough, they'll vote for you. Doesn't matter what they've done on legislation, they'll vote for you. That's how this country and this state got in the situation it's in.
You mentioned earlier that you conceded that, the border is a federal problem, but and you said that there are things the state can do in regards to immigration or legal immigration, I assume. What can the state do?
It's illegal to enter the country illegally, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's illegal to trespass on private land, isn't it? Correct?
Yes.
The last time I looked, if I decide to trespass on your property, you can have me arrested, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, do that. Post trespassing signs all over the private land south of here, down by Sierra Vista and Sanitas and other places. And when they trespass, somehow the state can set up a system where they have officers of the law down there and start arresting them. Build 10 cities out in the middle of the desert. I don't care. If you violate our laws and then later tell me I want to be a citizen, you're starting this whole thing out by violating my laws. If someone breaks into my physical home, I can have them arrested. This country is our home. It's all of our homes. It's all citizens' homes. This is our home. If you just sing the national anthem, it talks about it. You sing about it, but nobody honors it that way. We're not going to have a home much longer. And I don't care who the president is. The Bushes were total failures at this. So was Clinton. So was Obama. And now we have the king of them all, the nitwit that's back there, Biden. If the last president that actually, other than Trump, that actually did his job was Dwight David Eisenhower. He deported illegals. He stated very clearly. Now, this comes from the general that was in charge of the entire Second World War in the European theater. When you have people coming into your country and you don't know who they are, it's called an invasion. I don't give a damn what the Supreme Court wants to call it. They say, well, they're not armed. I don't know. A lot of them are armed with drugs of all kinds that are killing thousands of our kids. That doesn't seem to bother anybody anymore. But if one illegal gets damaged somehow, oh my God, we have bleeding hearts. But our children are dying. Now, taking drugs, I don't agree with. I used to run a Christian halfway house in LA trying to help people with that. But the reality is a lot of children today are more troubled than they ever were when I was growing up. They don't even know who they are anymore. They're so screwed up with all the technology and then being left out of school. They're what I've called, and it's not an insult, it's just emotionally, they just can't handle certain stresses. And so they take a drug, and now it's laced with something and it kills them. And we don't do a thing about this. I look at China. They killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Hitler didn't kill that many. Mussolini didn't kill that many. The Emperor of Japan didn't kill that many. And what did we do to them for what they did? You look at 9/11, you killed 3,000 Americans, valuable lives. But they didn't kill that. Those people that crashed into the Twin Towers didn't kill as many people as China's killing with their drug production. And we haven't done a thing about it. And the virus they sent over here. And we've done nothing. We're still buying their crap.
Okay, Claire, we got about 2 minutes. So why don't you take this time to tell the voters why they should vote for you?
I want to bring education back to the schools where the parents have the final say on how the child is actually educated. And within that system, I want vocational training in the schools from 7th through 12th grade. Vocational training of all kinds, whether it's air conditioning, computer technology, welding, heating, it doesn't matter, because we've got all kinds of kids that aren't wired for college. And a lot of kids that go to college, over 75% never finish. And then they're just out there. Plus, if you don't improve the system, you've got kids graduating from high schools in this state that can't read. They can't write, they can't spell, they can't add. That's not an education. We're indoctrinating them real well, but we're not educating them. That has to change. We have a water problem in this state. Foster care needs to be fixed. A lot of these things can be fixed if you're determined to fix them and not care what the lobbyists, our PACs, or quite frankly, the party bosses want you to do. It's irrelevant. You're there to serve the people of the state of Arizona. You're not there to serve some special interest group. The only interest group you have are the citizens. And I'd like to see legislation produced. We wrote legislation years ago to protect the kids in school. You know what they did with it? It got out of committee. It even got to the floor, and they tabled it to make sure it couldn't get voted on. And it would have protected our children and given the parents rights. But the parties didn't want it voted on. This is wrong. We need single issue bills, not all the nonsense they do, or this backroom crap they do when they put a bill inside a reconciliation bill to pass it because the governor wants it, like SB 1469 back in 2015 that ripped employees from the superintendent of public instruction, handed them over to the Board of Education, which was illegal. You cannot have employees as a board. It makes you a department or an agency. That's illegal in Arizona's constitution. They did it anywhere. They don't care. These people they don't abide by their own oath. You had 20 Republicans in 2016, I believe it was, vote for the national popular vote. 20 Republicans. They violated their oath of office. They violated the U.S. Constitution. They even violated the platform of the Republican Party by voting for it. And now they say, I didn't understand. And some of them are running for office now, like Livingston and Fincham and Kern. They're all running for office again. And they say, I didn't understand. Anthony Kern wrote a 2-paragraph article, I believe, in your paper saying how great it was back then. For someone that didn't understand, he wrote real well. These are the kind of people that need to be kept out of office. And I know that this is not popular with a lot of so-called Republicans. I'm a Christian, constitutional, conservative Republican activist. And that's what I am, and that's where my loyalties lie. I will serve the people of this state. I don't need the job. I certainly don't need the money. And at my age, I definitely don't need all this aggravation. But I'm really tired of all these idiots getting up in rooms. And yes, I do call them idiots, and that upsets some of them. Most of them couldn't mix mop water. And they do exactly what they're told by their lobbyist friends. And that's wrong. And if we don't fix it, we're not going to have a state or a country. Because they prepare them here to go to DC, and then they look at what they're doing to us back there. But they're well trained at the state level.
We got about 15 seconds, Claire.
Okay, well, that's why I'm running.
All right. So thank you for coming. Good luck on the campaign. And we'll be back in about 1 minute with Legislative District 29.
All right, well, God bless you, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Welcome back, and we're here with Scott Podine, and he's a Democrat running for the House in Legislative District 29. Welcome aboard, Scott.
Well, thank you very much for having me and requesting me. I need to turn up the volume just a bit. I'm a little hard of hearing.
Okay. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for office?
I'm a 20-year Air Force retiree as a weapons loader, aircraft mechanic for 20 years. I'm running because the Republicans in the legislature are exceeding their rights according to the 10th Amendment. It says that all rights not hereunto covered by the Constitution of the United States or federal law is up to the states. First of all, voting rights. The Voting Rights Act covers what the legislature can and cannot do under federal law. They are exceeding their authority. The legislature wants to ban a woman's right to choose. Mark Brnovich, he's gone after and instituted a 100-year-old law before statehood that violates the Constitution under the 14th Amendment. LGBTQ rights are also codified under the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court continues to get these amendments wrong because they fail to leave their politics at the front door of the Supreme Court when they walk in. They fail to leave their religion at the front door of the Supreme Court when they walk in, which is what the founders intended. And quite frankly, I'm fed up. I'm tired of the Republicans exceeding their authority, making promises that they can't keep. I see all these Republican state candidates saying they're going to tighten up the border. Well, I'm sorry to Carrie Lake, Taylor Robeson, and all the rest of them. the borders are the federal jurisdiction, not the states. I'm seeing a great divide, and Republicans and Democrats in the state House, in the state Senate, the U.S. Senate, the U.S. Congress, failing to talk to each other, failing to work with each other, failing to find compromise, to find solutions for what I need. I live on a fixed income. My wife makes less than $30 an hour working for the state. I have to invent ways to save money, just like millions of Arizonans. And I'm tired of seeing the waste. I'm tired of seeing the fraud. I'm tired of seeing the millionaires say they're going to look out for the little guy, but only look out for themselves. When we saw Prop 208 go away, that is because the governor, members of the legislature, and those justices on the Supreme Court all look at it and say, hey, I'm a millionaire. I don't want to get taxed. So they made it go away.
Okay, well, one question I asked some Democrats in previous legislative district, with the recent decision in Roe v. Wade, what can Democrats do to push back on, any more efforts to regulate abortion? And we got 4 minutes left.
Well, Chris Mays, she's got a heck of a plan to use the Arizona State Constitution for right to privacy. I think that if we have a Democrat attorney general to sue on the basis of equal rights protections, as RGB said. But the best we could do is to get a federal law. And in short of that, we need enough Democratic attorney generals to sue the federal government and sue these anti-abortion laws under the 14th Amendment equal rights protections.
What about as a legislator? Is there anything you think you could do as a state legislator?
As a state legislator, I've got to, in order for me to do something, I'm one person. And there's 60 others in the House. Then there's 30 in the Senate. And then there's the governor. And then there's the committee chair. And it's got to get the blessing of the majority and those three people to make it happen. So right now, unless the Democrats can gain control of both houses and the governorship, I don't see it happening as a legislator. I'm just being realistic. Mm-hmm. Because in the minority, there's going to be enough Republicans that are going to go, no, not going to happen. And they're going to block it. And I really don't know, because I haven't talked to these folks face to face, whether or not I can get a committee chair, 32 others to go along with me, Republicans and Democrats, and 16, 17 Republicans, and then the governor to go along and sign it. The best we can do is to sue Mark Brnovich and the current law to get a different ruling from the Supreme Court.
Okay. So, Scott, you got about a minute and a half. Can you just tell the voters why they should vote for you?
I am one of you. I live on a fixed income. I have to invent ways to make things happen and make the bills work. I'm not a man of the people because I am one of the people. I am one of the majority of Americans and Arizonans that has seen our legislators lose touch with what we're having to deal with. Governor Ducey, he's a millionaire. We have members of the Senate and members of the House, millionaires. If I'm elected and I walk into that chamber, I'm going to bring the gross per capita income down quite a bit, because my wife and I together make less than $100,000 a year. I'm a business owner. I am a one-person shop. I work on my own cars. I do my own yard work. I do my own household maintenance. I can't afford to call somebody in to fix my oven. I have to figure out how to fix my oven. I have to fix my cars. I can't pay somebody to do that. And I'm in the same boat, or in a little bit better boat, than hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Arizonans. I am not a rich man.
All right, Scott. Well, thank you for your time tonight, and good luck on the campaign. So I just want to say thank you to all the viewers who've tuned in over the last 5 nights, and all of the candidates who took the time to come or to get on Zoom and share a little bit about themselves and their campaigns with the viewers and the voters. And just remember, the ballots are in the mail, and get out and vote. And thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again in 2 years.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.